Just so you guys know, tomorrow, a lot of you are going to be really sore. You're going to be sore. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do to help reduce the soreness. The first one is you can properly hydrate yourself with water. Not coffee, not diet soda, not alcohol, not fruit juice, water. In fact, the amount of water that you need to be drinking is half your body weight in fluid ounces. So to give you an example, I weigh 208 pounds, which means I need to drink 104 ounces of water every day. It's extremely important that you drink that much water. The second thing that you can do to help reduce the soreness is proper nutrition. You are all going to be sore because we just tore up your muscle. The reason that you're sore is that's your body's way of saying, hey, why don't you go and take it easy so I can fix this muscle that you just tore up. Now, contrary to popular belief, Rice Krispie Treats and Pop-Tarts do not have nutrients. They do not have nutrition in them. They actually have a lot of chemicals because they are highly processed. Our body does not use chemicals to rebuild muscle tissue. The longer it takes your body to rebuild and repair the muscle, the longer you're going to be sore. So, I'm not going to say you're not allowed to eat processed foods, and I'm not going to say you're not allowed to eat fast food. What I am going to say is you eat that processed foods and you eat that fast food, that will literally be the difference between you being sore for 1 to 2 days or you being sore for 3 to 5 days. So it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You do whatever you want. You're an American, you're an adult, you can make your own decisions. The next thing that you can do is you can foam roll and stretch. Now, we're not going to go over foam rolling until next week. You guys don't need your foam rollers. If you already have one or if you want to purchase one early, on your website, there's a file in the files section called Self-Myofascial Release Stretching Techniques. It's a 3-page packet, and it goes step by step, and it's got pictures and it's got detailed descriptions that explains exactly how to foam roll. The fourth and final thing, if you've done the first 3 things and you are just sore and that's just all there is to it, you might want to invest in a bottle of creatine. Creatine really helps replenish the muscle's energy system, which allows it to repair itself a lot faster. However, you will not need a full bottle of creatine. So, find somebody else in class who's just as wiped out and sore as you are. Go halves on a bottle of creatine with them. You don't need a whole thing. A bottle is, I think it's $30 up at the front desk. It will dramatically, it'll cut your soreness in half. It'll make a huge difference in increasing your recovery time. So if you wake up tomorrow or if you wake up on Friday and you're saying, holy freaking crap, what the heck happened to me? Come on down, get a bottle of creatine. Again, you won't need a whole bottle. By the time you get through that half bottle, you will have developed enough endurance and your body will have learned the movement patterns that we're going through. You will not become as sore. All right, next thing we're going to talk about, an introduction to diets. I'm going to write this word down here. It's the first law of thermodynamics, or the law of energy conversion. Now, has anybody heard of the first law of thermodynamics? Anybody take physics, college? Okay, first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed. It can only be transferred or contained. So I cannot take energy and just sit here and juggle energy in my hand. I have to have something. It's got to be moving. It's got to have a conductor. I've got to be able to store it somewhere. The energy has to constantly be, I can't just throw it out there. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred from one source to another or stored in a source. So what that means, what does that mean to us as human beings? Well, calories. The word calorie is just a word that we use to describe how much energy is in food. So if I'm holding an apple and I say that that apple has 70 calories, what I'm really saying is that that apple has 70 units of energy. That if I eat or if I ingest, I can transfer those 70 units of energy into my body. Now, if I needed those 70 units of energy, that's great. I'm going to use them. Everything that we do requires energy. Eating, sleeping, breathing, talking, flipping the bird in boot camp, all that stuff requires energy. In fact, a 150-pound person, on average, will burn about 500 to 600 calories just in their sleep because there's so much stuff going on even while we're sleeping. So calories are very, very, very important. Now, if I did not need those 70 calories, If I did not need them because I either did not move enough to justify the need for those 70 calories, or if I had already eaten plenty prior to that apple, well then I'm going to store it as body fat. So contrary to popular belief, the only way that body fat gets on our body is if we ate more calories than we needed. There's a law of science that says if you wear it, you ate it. Period. End of story. End of discussion. And that's how it works. I'm sorry. So if we break this down here, let's say that if a person eats 2,000 calories in a day, this side is the food intake, 2,000 calories. If I eat 2,000 calories and I burn 2,000 calories, based on the law of thermodynamics, there's not going to be any change in my mass. If I eat 2,000, I burn 2,000, I stayed the same. Does that make sense? Everybody on the same page? We can't argue with it. It's a law. It's not the first theory of thermodynamics. It's not like we're not sure. No, it's a scientific law. A scientific law means that a lot of people that are smarter than all of us combined have spent years and years and years making sure that this is right and that it's not wrong. And if anybody's going to argue the first law or any scientific law, it's just not going to be us, guys. It's not going to be anybody in this room. So when we get a scientific law, we have to accept it for what it is. It's a scientific law. So if I eat 2,000 calories and I burn 2,000 calories, my weight is not going to change. So if my goal is to change my weight, doesn't it make sense that I have to disrupt this balance? I have to throw this balance out of balance. And there's two ways that I can do that. I can either eat less food or I can burn more calories. Make sense? Either way creates what we would call a deficit. So what I'm going to do is we're going to walk through a typical dieter. Let's say that I wake up one day and I decide I'm not happy with the way that I look and feel, and so I want to lose weight. Do you guys know that there's 76,000 diets registered with the FDA right now? 76,000. Now, does it make sense that if just one of those diets worked, that they'd throw out the other 75,999? I mean, that makes sense, right? Why have 76,000 diets if the rest of them don't work and we have this one that does? Okay. Diets don't work. Diets do not work, and by the time we're done with this, you're going to understand why they don't work. So I wake up one day and I decide I'm going to go on a diet. All diets are the same. All they do is they just restrict your calories. I'm going to refrain from using any names of popular diets. I'm working with a client right now who's using a very, very popular diet concept where she doesn't track calories, she tracks points. And she's given a certain number of points every day, and she's only allowed to have her number of points. Well, her number of points is 26. She gets 26 points. Now, a point is anywhere from 0 to 5 calories, depending on how much fiber you have. If she maxes out her fiber and really just overloads the fiber, she gets 1,329 calories. That is the most that she gets. Now, this woman is about 220 pounds. She's about 220 pounds. 1,300 calories is darn near starvation. She's just not used to it. She's really having a tough time at 1,300 calories. That's the most that this diet program is going to give to her. Her average daily caloric intake is only 800 calories. I have not seen a diet, and I'm not saying they're not out there, I'm just saying I haven't seen one. And I've looked at all the popular diets. I've not seen a diet that gives a woman over 1,300 calories, or I'm sorry, over 1,400 calories. I've never seen a diet give a man over 1,800 calories. And if you sit down and map out the foods, yeah, they're all the same. They are all low-calorie diets in disguise. So if I want to lose weight, I'm going to go on a typical diet, and that diet's just going to slash my calories. So based on what we know about the law of thermodynamics, if I'm only eating 1,500 calories now, but I'm burning 2,000 calories, does it make sense that I'm in a 500 calorie deficit? Every single day that I do this, I'm in a 500 calorie deficit, and my body has to get those calories from someplace. So it's going to get them from my body fat storage. So there's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. I'll write that down right here. 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of body fat. So if I'm in a 500 calorie deficit for 7 days, at the end of 1 week, I will have lost 1 pound of body fat. Make sense? Now, it seems simple, right? If I'm in a deficit, I lose weight. Okay, there's a problem with the diet. There's a problem with the deficit. And the problem is I have a defense mechanism in my subconscious called homeostasis. Homeostasis is, for our intents purposes, we're going to define homeostasis as my body's desire to maintain an energy balance. I just threw my body way out of balance by a 500 calorie deficit. So what happens is my body begins to lose body fat. And my body's going to begin to panic because it believes that there must be a food shortage. And so what's going to happen is it's going to start triggering all kinds of little responses in my brain. The very first response is it's going to release little chemicals in my brain that say, feed me! This is ridiculous! And I'm going to feel like I'm extremely hungry. Now, I'm not saying any of you have ever done a diet, failed a diet, done a dumb diet, but people that I know have done diets, and the first thing that they notice is they're absolutely starving. They were extremely hungry. Do you guys know anybody that's ever been on a diet? I'm not saying any of you. I'm just saying people you know that have done a diet. And yeah, first, oh my gosh, I'm freaking starving. Why? Because you're in a deficit. Your body's freaking out. It's trying to panic. It's just your body looks at body fat the way that you look at your checking account. Okay? As your checking account gets a little closer to zero, you're checking the online every single day, making sure before you spend anything, you check, you double check. Maybe I wrote a check. Let me make sure. Is there any payments? But the day of payday, it's like, oh, woohoo, I just got paid, to go shopping, going out to eat. Am I right? Yeah? Okay? Same way that your body is. When your body fat starts to come down, your body triggers homeostasis and it begins to panic. Now, let's say that I'm the dieter and I'm going to stay disciplined. I'm going to say, you know what, I don't care. I'm just going to drink lots of cold water. I'm going to do stuff to take my mind off it. I'm going to stay focused and I'm just going to deal with the hunger. Well, then your body says, okay, fine. If you're going to fight me and you're not going to eat, I'm going to come to the other side. And if I can't get you to eat more, then I'm going to go ahead and release little chemicals and little messages in your brain that say, go take a nap. Why don't you relax? You've really worked hard today. Do you guys know that 96% of jobs in America are classified as sedentary? 96% of jobs. I'm sorry, if you're on your feet all day long and you're constantly moving, I'm sorry, you're still sedentary. If you're not moving 55 pounds for a minimum of 5 hours consistently, your job is sedentary. And people really have a tough time with that because they sit there and say, well, you know what, I'm constantly doing this and I'm doing that and I'm always moving. Okay, then why aren't you thin? Because our ancestors in the 1800s, guess what? They really had to work. And you know what? Everybody was thin. Do you guys know that we do not have any studies and we don't have any reports on obesity prior to the mid-50s? You know why? There wasn't enough people overweight. There wasn't enough overweight people in the 1940s to count. It's the same reason why today we don't have any studies on how many teenagers have purple mohawks with orange polka dots. Because there's not enough of them. It's not worth counting. So how did they stay thin? Why? Because they really worked. So if I go on a diet, my body is going to tell me that I'm tired. My body is going to say, you know what, Victor? You worked so hard in your sedentary, climate-controlled desk job where you weren't even exposed to the elements and you sat for most of the day. But you are so tired. Why don't you go home and rest? Let your wife take care of the kids. Grab a snack. Watch American Idol. You deserve it. And I literally start feeling justified after coming home from my sedentary, climate-controlled desk job that, you know what, I'm going to sit on the couch and I'm going to watch TV because I deserve it and I'm going to get a snack along the way. That's homeostasis. That's my body trying to get me to move less. Because if I move less, look what happens. If I move less, I burn less. And so, how many of you have ever known somebody that went on a diet? And again, I'm not saying any of you. I'm just saying people you know that have been on a diet, and after about the first week, all of a sudden, boom, no energy. At first, it was fine. It was great. It felt good because, you know, if I'm on a diet, that means I'm being very conscious of my food. That means I'm probably not eating Twinkies and cupcakes as much anymore, and I probably quit eating the fast food. I'm actually eating good foods. So initially, when I start a diet, I actually do feel good. But after about maybe 1 to 3 weeks, all of a sudden, the energy levels are just, whew, boy, this is really tough. really having a tough day getting through each day. But there's more. Let's say that I just sit there and say, I don't care, I'm going to fight it. I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk the dog, I'm going to go to the gym, I don't care. Well, homeostasis still has one more thing it's going to do to me. The next thing that it's going to do, it's going to start shedding muscle that it can no longer afford to feed. Now, 1 pound of muscle, 1 pound of muscle will burn 35 to 50 calories a day. 1 pound of muscle. 1 pound of muscle will burn 35 to 50 calories a day. Muscle is just a calorie hog. It's very greedy. Muscle is very inefficient. It's very ineffective. Your body does not want any more muscle than it absolutely needs because it's not good for energy. You take body fat on the other hand, body fat can store 3,500 calories and it only needs 3 calories a day. How many parents do we have here? Okay, you got 2 kids. One of them's named Muscle. And Muscle is very needy, very demanding. Muscle is constantly going, mine, mine, Mom, I want a drink. Will you stop touching me? Okay, that's Muscle. Will not leave you alone for nothing. Okay, then you've got body fat. Body fat is that quiet child who will play in the corner with his toys and let you go ahead and take a nap. Okay. Who's going to be your favorite? And don't lie. I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but we do. As parents, we have favorites. And you know what? It's not the smart kid. It's not the one that looks the most like us. It's the one that leaves us alone and gives us peace. That is our favorite child. Don't deny it. I know. I have 4 children. So your body begins to shed muscle that it can no longer afford to feed. It looks at muscle and says, hey, I'm sorry, we can't afford you. This guy's not eating as much. You're sitting here wanting 35 to 50 calories every day. Why can't you be like your brother? He only wants 3. So your body literally begins to shed muscle that it can no longer afford to feed. And it will justify it because I'm moving less. Well, if I'm moving less, I don't need as much muscle, right? What happens when people get overly sedentary? They lose muscle. The body is only going to keep as much muscle as it absolutely has to because muscle is very energy greedy. It's very demanding. So look what happens. You see what continues to happen? Boom. Balance. My body's achieved homeostasis. It's back in balance. I slowly, between being tired and not having energy level, not having good energy levels, and losing muscle tissue, I slowly go from burning 2,000 calories a day, and for the first week, it's awesome. I was losing 3 to 5 pounds, and woohoo, having a ball. And then the second week rolls around, and I only lost 3 to 4 pounds. And then the third week, I only lost 2 to 3. And as the weeks go on, I lose less and less each week, right? You guys know anybody that's done it? Not you, just people you know that have gone on a diet, and it was great. It was phenomenal for the first, maybe even the first month, maybe even the first 2 months. And then all of a sudden, boom, the brakes hit. Not losing any more weight. Now, how frustrated am I if I'm a dieter? I'm still eating 1,500 calories. I don't understand. I'm actually getting more diligent, more disciplined. Maybe I'm not doing it right because 2 months ago I was losing 3 to 5 pounds. I'm still doing the same diet, the same program, the same concept. I'm working twice as hard, and I've hit a brick wall. I'm not losing any weight. Does it make sense now why it's very typical for someone to go on a diet, lose a little bit of weight, and then hit a plateau, and then stop? Now, if I'm on a diet and I'm not getting results, and I'm not eating the foods that I like, and it sucks, and I'm not having any energy levels anyway, am I going to stay on the diet for long? No, I'm not, am I? At some point, if I hit a brick wall, I'm going to sit there and say, why? Why keep I'm not losing weight anymore. So I'm going to quit the diet, aren't I? I'm going to quit the diet. Now, when I quit the diet and go back to my old habits were 2,000 calories a day, remember that? So look what happens. I'm now eating 2,000 calories, but due to my low energy levels and my muscle tissue loss, I'm only burning 1,500 calories. Now I'm in a 500 calorie surplus. Have you guys ever known anybody that went on a diet, lost some weight, hit a plateau, got frustrated, quit the diet, and gained all the weight back? And maybe even some extra reinforcements. Now you know why. Now you can let them know. Because I'm not saying any of you have done that. I'm just saying people you know that have gone through that process. Now you know why. Unfortunately, that's not the end of the bad news. Let's say that when I started the diet, I weighed 150 pounds. A typical breakdown of that is going to be approximately 100 pounds of muscle, 50 pounds of body fat. Now remember what I said. I was losing muscle because I couldn't afford to feed it. Remember how this is all the calorie deficit? Well, we don't just get calories from food. And you're going to learn that in later on weeks of boot camp. We don't just get calories from food. We also get nutrients from food. So there's two things I get from food. I get calories and I get nutrients. If I'm in a calorie deficit, that's good. That means I'm losing body fat. If I'm in a nutrient deficit, that's bad, because that means I'm going to lose muscle like crazy. So does it make sense that if I adjust my food intake to put myself in a calorie deficit, that I'm also going to be in a nutrient deficit? Does that make sense? All right, so if I'm in a calorie deficit, I'm also going to be in a nutrient deficit because I adjusted my food intake. The nutrient deficit is bad. Remember what we learned about muscle. 1 pound of muscle will burn 35 to 50 calories a day. So if I go on a typical diet and I lose, let's say I lose 20 pounds, I'm going to typically lose half of that from my calorie deficit and half of it from my nutrient deficit. So if I lose 20 pounds, chances are I lost 10 pounds of muscle and 10 pounds of body fat. I really am 130 pounds and I'm happy because I lost that 20 pounds. But that 10 pounds of muscle that I lost, that 10 pounds of muscle used to burn 350 to 500 calories. And we already learned that that's what causes that plateau in the diet. So when I come off the diet, because I got frustrated, and I go back through here and I go back to my old habits and I start gaining that weight back, well, there's two things that are required in order for your body to build muscle. The first one is adequate nutrition. Well, I'm not on my diet anymore because I'm ticked off. I'm feeling like crap anyway. I don't feel good. So I'm not going to be planning and preparing meals. I'm going back to my old habits, which got me in the trouble in the first place. So chances are I was eating a lot of processed foods and a lot of fast foods anyway. I'm not getting adequate nutrition to build muscle. The second thing that's required to build muscle is proper stimulus. Now, I just failed the diet. I don't feel like hitting the gym. I don't feel like going for a run after work. I have counseled and I have trained several people that have failed on several diets. And I have yet to meet one that said, I failed my diet and I got up the next day and hit the gym, joined the gym, started training for marathons instead. I haven't met that person yet. So I'm not hitting the gym. I feel like crap. I feel low. I'm not eating right because I went back to my old habits. So guess what? The two things that are required to build muscle are not taking place. So as I'm gaining my weight back, I'm not going to get back up to my 100 pounds of muscle. I'm probably going to get about 93 pounds of muscle, and I'm probably going to get 57 pounds of body fat. So I'm actually worse off after the diet than before the diet, even though my weight just got back to where it was. Now guess what? It's only going to take me about 4 to 6 months to get over the failure of my diet before I shake out of it and say, okay, maybe I just didn't, okay, let's go for this again. Let's try it again. Let's try a different diet this time. Maybe I just wasn't focused. And I try it again. And I just go through the cycle all over again. And then the next time, now I'm maybe 87 pounds and I'm 63 pounds, and it just keeps getting worse, and it keeps getting worse, and it keeps getting worse. Every time I attempt and fail a diet, I just keep making it worse and worse. Now, I have only given you guys a taste of homeostasis, how the body works, why diets don't work. We have a ton of stuff that we still have to learn and go over. Why am I cutting you off now? Partly because I know you guys got to get out of here, but partly because I want to give you a reason to come back. If I gave you everything at once, you'd be like, well, I got everything I need to know. No, you guys are going to be sore. You guys are going to be ticked off at me tomorrow. I need to give you a reason to come back. I'm only giving you just a little bit. because I need you to come back. We've got to cover calorie staggering. For those of you that move on to advanced boot camp, we're going to cover metabolic typing, where you're going to actually learn how to calculate what percentage of your calories should come from a source of proteins, carbs, and fat. Because you know what? We're all different. And that's why all diets fail. Because they don't sit down, and they'd have to have a manual like this thick that would be able to coach you and walk you through the process of identifying how your body is so different from the person sitting next to you. I'm going to take you guys through that process so that you can learn how to do that.